So I wanted to discuss my biggest mistake I've made in my fantasy writing journey. And that's a mistake that slid over to other areas in my life as well, including my handstand practice, a few different other fitness related things. But the big mistake has led me to become better. I've become better in fiction writing, but I could have gotten way better if I hadn't made this mistake. So the mistake is deliberate practice. That's the thing I've forgotten to do. So I've written for 7 months, and it's been like a natural. I've become better naturally just by writing and drafting new scenes every single day. I've become naturally better. I've always been reading fiction while I've been writing, so I've seen good fiction, etc. But what I haven't done is gone back to those scenes and looked them over, seen with a writer's eye what could I have done better, and taking that information and gone back to the next, going forward to the next day, and try to purposely, for example, fix my dialogue. I realized one thing today, that I've been using a bit of floating heads. That's what it's called, and that's a dialogue mistake I probably could have prevented if I deliberately gone back to my drafts and looked them through. So if you don't know, floating heads is basically when you write a sentence, which is dialogue, then you write another sentence, which is a dialogue, then another one, and you don't have any reflection or you don't have any action lines between this dialogue, and you don't really know who's talking as well, because there isn't that many isn't that many dialogue tags often in floating heads, so it gets a little confusing for the reader. And that to me just tells me that there's a lot of other mistakes that I might not know right now that I'm making continuously in my drafts that I would avoid if I just went back to my drafts and just looked them over, watched maybe some videos on writing, and took that information right away, went to the draft, found the mistakes in my own drafts, and learned from that by doing the next day, by writing and focusing on that specific mistake and not making that mistake. So yeah, I think being very deliberate with your fantasy writing fiction is very important. I also think it's sort of like a respect for your own craft, that you're not going to let yourself go wander around. And that's what I've been doing for the past 7 months. And yeah, don't let yourself wander around and just make mistakes all the time. That's an analogy I like to think of when it comes to this is that when you're trying to learn to drive a car, you'll naturally become good by just driving a car alone. But if you drove a car and to your left side you had a mentor, a coach, which told you all your mistakes that you made while you were driving, you become much better, much quicker, because you got the feedback and then you went back to the driving and you learned. You avoided that mistake, or you took that lesson, and suddenly you're the best fucking car driver in the city. And that's how I think of it with fantasy fiction as well. I personally use, it's probably a bit controversial among any writers, but I use AI as my writing coach, but not specifically AI. I'm rather trying to distill all the principles from J.K. Rowling, George R. Martin, and these big writing channels, and I'm using AI as sort of a medium to take all the information all of these writers have, and then personally give me feedback on my own things based on that information they have made in the videos. For example, one YouTuber I follow very closely, actually, I started watching a few days ago, is a person called Alyssa. I can't remember the second name, but she'll pop up definitely on YouTube. I'm not sponsored at all because I'm a very little channel, so don't think I'm getting anything for it. I just thought it was useful for you to know. So Alyssa, that's publishing person as well. She's been in the publishing industry, and I'd say her advice is pretty good. I've personally taken a bit of it. So yeah, I think that's it for this video. Deliberate practice is fucking king. And I wish I had learned that before I spent 7 months writing. But again, that's kind of when you're on a journey, you figure out, you wish you knew things earlier, but that's the thing, you're on this journey to figure out all of those things along the way. How could I possibly have known 7 months ago? Yeah, it is how it is. So yeah, that's another day into a very long journey. That's day 245 of me trying to create the next Harry Potter. Hope this was useful. Take care.